Oh, okay. I'm going to do a second try. I'm not happy with my first try at talking about my stint in Greece as a nanny. So I was 20. My father died when I was 18. He was only 47, 48 years old. I don't want to talk about that. So anyway, a couple years had passed. My mother had become very depressed when he first died, and I didn't want to leave her. But then when I was 20, I was like, I kind of wanna go to Greece and see what my father's life was like, to get a feel for it, because I remember he told me he left Greece at the age of 17. It was World War II, and they had a draft in Greece where, once you hit 18, you did a 2-year stint in their army. And he had seen what war had done. He said on his way to school he would have to walk over dead bodies, and he just didn't want to be a part of that. So he left Greece and went to Italy. He lived there for 3 years. When his visa came through, he wanted to be a naturalized American. He had relatives in Dover, New Hampshire, and he had a job waiting for him in a produce market. And that's where he started, and he went to school at night. And he would meet my mother through, the Greeks who knew each other in that area. My mother was in Somersworth, and married her, and the rest is history. Here I am. So, right, so I was 20, and I said to my mom, I just want to go over and I want to visit. I want to see what it's like over there, maybe stay about a year. She didn't like the idea, but I went anyway. And my cousin and I were very close. She lived like across the street up the hill from me in Hampton, New Hampshire. And she said, hey, if you're going to Europe, let's go see a couple countries. So we did that. She planned all the itinerary out, and I had worked my ever-lovins off. I had $500 then from working all summer making tips as a waitress. And so we took off, and I ran out of money because I'm not good with money in Germany. And my ex-sister-in-law was in Germany. I stayed with her for a little while, and then I borrowed some money and I flew back to Athens, where I started working again and, started paying off that debt. Well, what was I going to say? Oh, so my aunts, I was living with one aunt. I had 3 aunts, all of them married. I stayed with the one who had no children. And one of the other aunts knew of a woman who needed a nanny. And so I talked to her before I left for my European trip, because we went to Athens first. My cousin met my father's family, and that was funny. I think we spent like a week in Athens, and then we took a ship from Perea to Brindisi, Italy. Perea, Greece, to Brindisi. And then we got to see a lot of Italy. Oh, it was fantastic. I saw the Colosseum and, all of that stuff. And, the Vatican. Oh, man. I gotta tell you, if you can get to Europe, if you can go see Greece, the Acropolis, the Parthenon, all that jazz, Lakavitos, was that the other place? Big Bell, and all the ruins and stuff. Amazing history. You should go. And then Italy was amazing. I would highly recommend the Vatican, though I hear, I paid $80 to get in back then, okay? I think it's outrageous now. And I got to see the Sistine Chapel. I got to see the Basilica. I got to see the Pieta. What a beautiful statue of Mary holding Jesus. And that was when they had repaired it, when that crazy man hit the Virgin Mary's nose and shattered it. So I saw the repaired rendition. It was, I I just stood there. I didn't want to leave it. They were all looking at everything else and they finished. I just had to stand there, and I just wanted to look at it from top to bottom. Every detail was stunning. Stunning. I think that was the most influential thing of my whole trip. And then, okay, so we saw Italy, Switzerland, Austria. In Germany, I ran out of money. So I ended up getting a ticket going back to Athens and starting this job for this woman. I lasted all of 3 months in my aunt's house because I was an American and they had Greek, really old world ideas. And I'm like, what are you, nuts? I'm 20. I'm almost 21 years old. And so, yeah. Europe is Europe and America is America, and never the twain shall meet. So I ended up, they asked me to leave, and not politely. And so I found a job as a governess for a woman in it was a little outside of Athens, out in the country. Very nice. And a cute little house. Well, it was kind of a big house, really, when I think of it. And but I just felt I got 1 day off a week, and only for a certain amount of hours. I had to be back by early evening, and all I did was raise those little girls, 2 little girls. Oh, they were so cute, Mirena and Marietta. It's the sweetest little girls ever. I was sick of the housekeeper and how she treated me. What a witch. And I was tired of being these little girls' mother. I mean, the little girls would get sick and I would nurse them. I was with them day and night. I get those few hours off once a week. And finally, I just I don't know, I was afraid to say anything to the woman who, we had talked a lot, and I really liked her when she was home. And but she was such a socialite, very wealthy. I won't tell you, her husband had started a very well-known company in Europe, and she was the benefactress. He died, and because he was much older than her when she married. Hang on a minute, I'm getting dry mouth. So yeah, so I packed my bags. I didn't say goodbye, and one afternoon I left. I so wish today that I hadn't done that. I didn't say goodbye to little girls. I don't know how brokenhearted they were, but I was friends with the oldest daughter because she had these 2 babies way later in life. Kind of like I had Bonnie way later in life when my kids were already, and so the daughter that I was friends with, one was older with her own kids and married, and the other one was a college student and or working, I think, and looking for a husband. And she was such a sweet girl. I called her and I said, is everybody pissed? And she said, my mom would really like to talk to you. And so we talked, and we talked about my going back, but the housekeeper was worse than ever. She literally, long story, but she was a witch, terrible human being. And so I ended up staying in Athens, working in a restaurant, and I was looking for other governess jobs, but I just didn't want to. I don't know. I felt, I was a wanderer. I just couldn't sit still, and that's the truth of it. I had met this Greek soldier. I dated a couple different guys when I was in Athens. One while I was in my aunt's house, and we broke off. Another one Another one. And then I found this Greek soldier while I was in the restaurant in Athens, and he was so beautiful. He was like Trojan beautiful, you know, like better than Brad Pitt in Troy. And he blonde hair and blue eyes and just not a Greek face at all. He was very Nordic, not Scandinavian Nordic, more like almost Irish looking, you know, which, you know, some of us were captives from northern Ulster and brought to Carthage, which later would become Greece. Anyhow, I love history, especially my history. And so I just fell in lust with him. And he said he was being deployed up to this little remote village near Orestiada, Greece. And I said, take me with you. And so he did. And I lived there for a few months. But I just couldn't stay put. No. The winds of change, you know? The line from that song. And when I want to stay, the winds of change just carry me away. And so I told him I was going back to America, and we cried. I always have wondered what it would have been like had I stayed, but he was a socialist. No, he was a communist, and he was going to be a teacher, which wasn't a great pay scale in Greece. And he was from a very tiny village, and I was an American, and I wasn't a communist. I looked into socialist values while I was there. Had my little green pasok bandana. You know, anything went for me back then. I mean, I liked what the young students were saying and stuff about, you know, that kind of thinking. And you know, Greece has had a rough history, including, you know, them going after some students, and I think that, if I remember correctly, they killed them at the Polytechnic Institute, the college, when they were protesting or something. And really sad stuff, man. But yeah, so I left and I went back to America. And for a while, I mean, it was very hard to stay in contact with this young man. I wanted him to come to America, and I don't know, somehow or other our letters weren't getting to each other, and I was over. I tried calling, I tried contacting him, and that was hard, you know. But you know, my life turned out great. I've got 4 fantastic kids, and they all love me, and I'm crazy about them. They're more than my children, they're my best friends. And I happen to be going with my best friends for a trip. There's a gem show in the United States. I'll tell you about it later. And because I'm not going to be able to travel this fall on my own, though I wish I could, unless a miracle comes to me in the form of cash. I'm going to stay put to pay off the debt I'm currently in. And so I'm going to get to go do luxury accommodations with my boys and Maggie and Finn, and I'm the nanny while I'm there, and in exchange I get everything I need. Great place to stay, all travel paid for me. Hopefully we'll get to see a few things, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this trip. And that's my story about when I was a governess in Greece and fell in love with a soldier and went home. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Uh-oh. Bye.